The best artwork in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is finally in Master Duel. Hello guys and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, we're taking a look at Ashen, the new archetype that is in the most recent set that wasn't just support, but is actually a new archetype. It is also a TCG exclusive. Well, it was a TCG exclusive, and you know what that means. It's not very good, or is it? Obviously, this deck is a pretty interesting one, to say the least, and it has a lot of decks that you can pair with it. Most notably, something like Snake Eyes. Since they're all Pyros, you can just play Snake Eyes. Now, I'm not going to do that. Why? Because, simply put, it doesn't really make sense to do that. You're just making a worse Snake Eyes, or a worse whatever else it is, by throwing in the Ashen cards. So there's not really a reason to do that, outside of just because you wanted to make this deck slightly better. But at that point, you're just playing the other deck. So here is Ashen. It's just Ashen. So let's quickly go through the card by card and the explanation. I'm going to start off here with just the generic cards. We're playing a Droll, we're playing 3 Maxi, we're playing 3 Ash Blossom. I'm also only playing 2 Fuwa. Mostly the reasoning for this is because I actually think that it's terrible for going first. So yeah, that's pretty much it. There's no real reason for me to play more than 2 of this. And yeah, I didn't really have space. Because I'm also playing 3 Super Poly, because of the way that this deck works, it's actually very nice to have Super Poly. You can fuse your opponent's board, and you give them a card that you want to fuse with. So it's very, very nice, all things considered. And then 2 Called By, as well as 1 Chicken Game, which we'll get into later. And that's pretty much it. Next up, we are playing ourselves the 3 apiece of Priestess, which says if if the Ashen City is on the field, in the field zone, you can special summon this card from your hand. Now, notably, this doesn't say your field zone; it says the field zone, meaning you can give it to your opponent, which there is a way to do that. You can give it to your opponent, and then this card can still special summon itself. Fantastic. On normal or special, it adds an Ashen card from your deck to your hand. Notably, this does not include Vados, which is not an Ashen card, nor does it include Awakened, or Awakening, which is also not an Ashen card, nor does it include Extinguishing. Actually, sorry, I lied about that. This can be added. Just ignore that last part. But keep that in mind. It can't add this one and this one. Cool. And that's pretty much it. Next up, we are playing 1 apiece of Shaman, Spearhead, and the King, which I will explain real quick. Shaman shuffles back cards in order to add the Ashen City, and it also has, they all have the same effect where they can special summon themselves with the Ashen City on the field. Spearhead can tribute itself in order to bounce a card as long as your opponent controls a 2800 or more attack point card, which Vados does fulfill that requirement. We also have a King, which can special summon it from the hand or grave. Hand or deck. Hand if your opponent doesn't control the 2800 attack or more attack point, or deck if they do. Make sense? Sorry, that was a bit confusing. Basically, you special summons from deck after you give your opponent a Vados. And then we have Hero, which also has the ability, which we're playing 2 of, which also has the ability to special summon itself. And during the main phase, you can pop a Pyro monster on the field. And then if it was Vados, you can you can place a Ashen City face up in the field zone. Now, notably, what this does is it allows you to pop Vados, which you give to your opponent by, during the main phase, popping a field spell and then special summoning this to your opponent's field. Now, notably, this is any field zone, or any card in the field zone, meaning you could pop the field card or the field spell you gave to your opponent, you have on your field, or one that your opponent has played. So that's something, right? It pops like the Tenpai field spell. Keep that in mind. On top of that, if you destroyed that card, you can then add or set an Ashen Continuous Trap from your deck, which is very nice. And if it is sent from the opponent's field to the grave, you can destroy all monsters on the field. Notably, this is you can, so you don't have to activate that effect, but it is something of note. And that's pretty much it. We're playing 3 of this because it is the best thing that we can be doing because of the field spell, which is just very important. However, it's also terrible, and it doesn't do anything. It says, face up special summon monsters your opponent controls become Pyro during your turn only. For some reason, it's really bad. On top of that, during the end phase, you can target a field spell in your grave and place it onto the bottom of the deck, then draw a card. Why is this in the end phase? Because it hates you, and it doesn't want you to draw cards that you can potentially use. Like, for example, a Super Polymerization, or a Continuous Trap. I don't know why. And then we have, in the if this card in the field zone is destroyed or banished, you can special summon an Ashen monster from your deck. So, with Vados and this, you can pop Vados, or pop with Vados, give this to your, or give Vados to your opponent, special summon, and then you can special summon King, which can then special summon Priestess, which can then search out another one of this, which is pretty good. On top of that, we're playing 2 Extinguished. This card kind of sucks, because it locks you into only Pyro monsters. Not only, well, oh sorry, this one only locks you from the extra deck by special summoning only Pyro monsters. This one also locks you in similar ways, except it also locks you from special summoning from the deck as well, for some reason. So, there's that. Anyway, Extinguishing sends a dark Pyro monster, then adds a level 5 or higher Pyro monster from your grave to your hand. So notably, this can send all of the level 4s, but generally you're going to send some of these guys, most notably Vados, in order to add it back to your hand. It's just kind of extra copies of it. And then you can also banish it to fusion summon using monsters from your hand or field as material. Notably, it is a Pyro fusion monster, so keep that in mind. Then we have ourselves Awakening of the Vados, which places in a field spell onto the field, face up in the field zone, in either field zone, including your opponent's. So what you do is you activate this, you give it to your opponent, and then you pop it using the Vados, and then Vados triggers, and your opponent basically can't imperm you, which is pretty good. On top of that, it also adds the Dark Pyro monster from deck to your hand, which is pretty good. And then, yeah, and then you're locked. That's pretty much it. As for the rest of the cards, we are running 1 apiece of Rekindling, which is a negate. You just shuffle back an Ashen card, and then you negate a monster. It's pretty terrible, but it does come up, and it's good to have. We have Ashen for Eternity, which adds a Vados or an Ashen card from grave to hand, and then you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls that you own, and take it back, and then your opponents lose that attack, or the monsters they currently control lose that attack. And then we are also playing Ashen of the Endless, which is a Super Polymerization. Basically, during the main phase, you fusion summon a Pyro fusion monster from the extra deck using Vados, as well as any other monsters on the field, and then it gains 500 attack for each material used. Then you can also banish it and a Dark Pyro monster from your grave to make all monsters your opponent currently controls become Pyro until the end of this turn. It is very clunky, but technically speaking, you can put this into the grave and then fusion summon using like Super Poly or another copy of itself. However, that would require you to play 2 copies of this card that you don't want to see in your hand. So, take that with a grain of salt. As for the rest of the deck, we are playing Super Poly targets Muddragon, Garura, Starving Venom, as well as we are playing Embers of the Ashen, 2 of this, in order to recycle the fusion from the grave. That's all it does. Or not the fusion, the field spell from the grave. That's all it does. The other effect doesn't matter. And then we're also playing 2 Vados, the Dragon of Endless Darkness. Now, to be frank, we don't need to be playing 2 of this, but I didn't really have another card that I could put in here, so I just threw this one in here. It is very hard to figure out an extra deck that does anything in this deck. So there's that. But this just requires Vados and 2+ level 9 or lower Pyro monsters. Notably, level 9 or lower. I tried to fusion summon a Baron. That doesn't work. So, oops. However, to be fair, this does just require 2 Pyro monsters, so you don't have to fuse with this guy. But that does matter for Ashen of the Endlessness. So, anyway, beside the point. This card, on Fusion Summon, nukes the spells and traps your opponent controls, and when an opponent activates a card or effect, you can send 1 face-up Ashen card from your deck, that you control to the grave in order to destroy that card. It's really bad. It can't even send itself, which is something of note, but also it is kind of difficult to out. It can't be destroyed by card effect, and also your opponent can't target it with monster effects, so it's like fairly difficult to deal with. That's it. It's just kind of difficult to deal with. We're also playing things like a Baron, which is why the Agniminal Candle is in here. You can search it off of Bonfire, and then it special summons itself and like can modulate its level. It makes Baron. It ended up in my hand a lot. We're also playing Baguska and Infernal Flame Banshee to search out Pyro monsters, and that is it for our Synchro and Xyz. Then we're also playing IP Masquerena, Dark, SP Little Knight, Axis Code Talker, and Underworld Goddess. Honestly, I could have put in maybe some other things in here, but I have no idea what else to put in here. So let me know what you would put. Anyway, thank you guys. Let's hop into the replays and show you guys how this deck worked. Alright, so here we are going first. However, our opponent allowed us to go first. That's not true. I actually chose to go first. I'm lying to you. But my opponent is going to activate Maxi. Okay, I'm going to activate this in response. I don't know why I'm chaining this, but it's funny. And then my opponent is going to go Fualos. And then, of course, Perulia. Woo! That's great. Anyway, we do have Vados in hand, which is kind of funny. So I'm just going to add Hero, I guess. We have 2 of him. If I only had 1, I honestly probably would have grabbed the second Vados, because it's like the best card we could have grabbed. Anyway, I grabbed Priestess as well off of the Bonfire, because there's not really anything else to grab. And we go for Priestess, and then I grab the Ashen, which is the fusion spell. Since I already have the field spell on the opponent's field, I can just, during the main phase, just, here's a guy. And then I can fuse it away, and then I can nuke the field. So yeah, that feels pretty good. Anyway, my opponent is going to banish a card. I'm like, what? What? Okay, what deck is playing Blaster? 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 Oh, it's Chandra. Yep, that's right. They could just... Yep, that works. I don't know why this guy's here. I could not explain to you why Destrudo is here. So there's that. Anyway, they were attempting to go to battle phase here, which we cannot allow because this is only main phase. Also, so is this guy. For some reason. I wish I could explain as to why these are main phase only, but they are. So there you go. Anyway, we're going to pop in order to special summon this guy, and then I'm also going to set the Ashen for Eternity. And then we are going to special summon the hero off of the field spell, and then fusion summon using the entire field to go into Vados, which will also nuke the field. And this guy notably can't be destroyed by card effects, just in general. So keep that in mind. You can actually nuke your own field, and then still keep this guy around. They pass, having nothing, which is great. And at this point, I just normal summon this guy, because it's funny. And then they go for the Fualos, which is cute. And they're dead, so that's nice. I just grab Rekindling here, because it's funny. I'm going to add back the Vados, again, because it's funny. And then just attack for lethal. Good job, Tenpai. Alright, so here we are going first once again, and we drew Awakening of the Vados, so that's pretty good. We're going to activate it in order to grab up the original Vados, and then pop our field spell that we just gave to our opponent. Happy days. We're going to grab up the Eternity here as well, and then go for the King in order to go into the Priestess off of the field spell, which will then grab the additional field spell. I'm going to normal summon the Fua, because it's funny, and then we can go into Infernal Flame Banshee to grab up the hero, and then special summon said hero, set to... except I forgot to set the called by, and, oops. Anyway, we draw into Maxi during the end phase. Coolio. Anyway, my opponent is going to dump to the graveyard Supreme King Dragon Darkworm, which says, once per turn, sorry, if this card is in your graveyard and you control no monsters, you can special summon this card. Oh, wait! They have a guy! That's crazy. Anyway, they also wanted to make Dragoon, which, this card is so unbelievably bad, by the way. Can I just explain how bad this card is? You cannot normal or special summon monsters the turn you activate this card. Why does it have that text on it? Red Eyes is not that good. It does not need that text. Anyway, they go to combat, walk over my guy. That's a-okay. Not really too concerned about that. I think just giving them the guy is pretty nice. I'm also going to add the Priestess back off of the Ashen for Eternity, which is pretty nice. Because now we can just do the normal summon again. So yeah, there you go. We're going to grab up the other trap here, and then we're going to special summon out the Spearhead, activate the Spearhead, grab back our own guy, which will then pop the field spell again, and special summon itself back to the field, and then we can get ashed, I guess? Okay. Now, you might be wondering, why are we not called buying that? Well, because I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter, because we can just do the thing anyway. We just special summon the guy anyway off of King. So yeah, we just do that. Anyway, they did happen to be ever so kind and send a Dark to the graveyard for us. So we're just gonna steal that. Then we're going to shuffle back 3 in order to grab up the field spell off of the Shaman effect. And then we're going to go into another Infernal Flame Banshee. We actually just shuffled it back. Because notably, Shaman doesn't require you targeting Ashen cards. It's Pyros. If only it was Ashen cards, that would be really cool. You know, because then you could put back the field spell. Only the field spell puts back the field spell. for some reason. Anyway, we grab Candle. Candle is then going to allow us... Sorry. We special summon the Candle, and then we just steal the monster back, and then go to combat. My original plan was actually to just, like, make Baron, but I didn't need to do that, so I just didn't. Good game. Alright, once again, going first, and this time we drew to Super Poly. Maybe it'll do something. Anyway, we're going to start off here with the Awakening of the Vados, which will promptly be Ash, which we will called by because we do need this to resolve. Cool. So, here's a guy. I'm going to grab my Vados. We're going to activate the effect of the Vados. We're going to give to our opponent said Vados and pop a card. Then we're going to search out the Eternity, which will then allow us to special summon the King, which will be promptly Valored. Tragic. I'm going to set 3 and pass. Why did I set this one? Don't ask about it. And it's actually going to bite me in the butt. You will see. My opponent is going to go for the Moye here, to which I will promptly activate the Maxi. And they will continue to play the game. Coolio. Out comes Chi-Xiao, and Moye. I draw Fualos, which is kind of funny. And then they're going to go for Protoss. Now, notably, they can just banish my monster. Well, that's not very good. Anyway, I activate Awakening of Vados, which locks me, if you recall, into only summoning Pyro monsters. Oops. Here's the problem with that. Okay? Here's the problem with that. I don't have a Super Poly target now. I had one. That's what the Starving Venom's in here for. But that's not Pyro. So, oops. At least I'm not dead. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Whoops. However, it should be fine. That is probably the best draw that it could have been, because now we can grab up the Rekindling, which actually allows me to basically play the game and not immediately have to shotgun my interaction here. But my opponent's going to go Protoss Call Dark, and I'm going to be like, no, stop that. I don't want you doing that. Out comes the Long Yuan, which I am then going to activate my Vados, and Maxi resolves, and I'm like, that's fine. They're going to draw a card. I'm going to Droll here, because it just makes the most sense here to Droll. And we're also going to pop here with Hero, which I'm then going to have to Super Poly. Oops. But that's fine. We'll just Super Poly away the field and make our big Vados. Yeah. And then I nuke the field as well. They're going to go for the Sacred Summit here in order to go for the Taya. Taya effect is going to activate, banishing a card, which then we can send the Ashen for Eternity to the graveyard in order to pop the Taya and just put them on a token. So, Dark Hole for the win. Let's go. Good game. Alright, we're back with the deck, and honestly, this deck is extremely fun to play. I really enjoy the way that this deck works, in particular, being able to, like, pop the field spell and like, give your opponent cards that you then utilize as, like, beneficial to yourself, right? Being able to, like, Dark Hole the field with Hero, or with the, with like a Super Poly or something along those lines is very interesting. I really do like Vados as a boss monster. I think it's pretty cool, except for the fact that this effect is just terrible, and I really hate it. But for the most part, like, being able to nuke the opponent's back row is pretty fun on summon. And, like, yeah, it basically is just like a Dark Hole Harpies Feather Duster kind of combo, and that's the general idea. But all in all, I do just enjoy the way that it plays. It's pretty low to the ground and kind of control-centric, which I find very fun. Now, with that being said, is it good? No. I wish it was. I really do. It's some of the best artwork. It is an extremely fun deck to play. It's just not good. It's similar in nature to Ragnarika. If you remember my video on Ragnarika, shout out to you, but also, this is very, very similar in nature. Ragnarika is a deck that kind of doesn't really have that good of a payoff and is kind of inconsistent. And sure, like, it can kind of do stuff, but it's not all that good. And this is similar. There's definitely a payoff at the very least. Like, being able to Dark Hole the field is pretty good. But then you have, like, no follow-up, and you're just kind of hoping and praying your opponent just, like, falls over and dies. So, there's that. Now, there are obviously ways to, like, get recursion, right? Like, being able to add back a priestess off of, you know, stuff, right? Mostly this guy. There are, like, a few ways here and there to kind of play around the like, limitations of the deck. But for the most part, it's just kind of, like, hoping and praying that you draw well, which is, I mean, we are playing a lot of dead cards that basically do nothing by themselves. So, sometimes it's not great. But if you do draw even remotely well, it is extremely fun to play. So there's that. Anyway, that's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching it. And remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye. Shout out to the Frost Guard, my members. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I hope you enjoy the content.